As the sun began to set on the small town of Willow Creek, a sense of panic washed over 10-year-old Jack as he realized his dog, Max, was nowhere to be found, and the only clue was a faint barking sound coming from the old abandoned mine on the outskirts of town. The sound sent a shiver down Jack's spine, and he felt his heart racing with every passing second. He had been playing with Max just moments before, laughing and throwing a ball for his loyal companion to catch. But now, the ball lay still on the ground, and Max was gone. The old mine had been closed for decades, and the locals avoided it due to the numerous rumors of accidents and eerie occurrences. The mine's dark history seemed to seep into the very air around it, making the trees lean away, as if they too were trying to escape its ominous presence. But Jack knew he had to act fast, as the barking sound was getting fainter by the minute. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead, and set off towards the mine. As he walked, Jack's mind was flooded with memories of the countless adventures he and Max had shared. From exploring the woods, chasing after squirrels, to playing fetch in the park, Max had been by his side through it all. The thought of losing his loyal companion was unbearable, bringing tears to his eyes as he frantically called out Max's name. The sound of his own voice echoed back, a haunting reminder that he was getting closer to the mine, and closer to the unknown dangers that lurked within. The air grew thick with the smell of damp earth and decay as Jack approached the mine. The sound of his own footsteps echoed through the empty tunnels, making him feel like he was being watched. He couldn't shake off the feeling that he was getting closer to finding Max, but also closer to danger. The trees seemed to loom over him, casting long, ominous shadows on the ground. Jack's heart pounded in his chest, and his senses were on high alert, as if warning him to turn back while he still could. But Jack pressed on, his determination to find Max driving him forward. He pushed aside the overgrown bushes and stepped into the mine's entrance, his eyes adjusting slowly to the darkness. The barking sound was louder now, and Jack followed it, his feet carrying him deeper into the mine. The air was musty and filled with the scent of rot, and Jack could feel the weight of the mine's history bearing down on him. As he walked, the sound of dripping water echoed through the tunnels, and Jack's imagination ran wild with thoughts of what could be lurking in the shadows. He called out Max's name again, his voice shaking slightly, and the barking sound grew louder in response. Jack's heart leapt with hope, and he quickened his pace, his eyes straining to see through the darkness. Suddenly, the barking stopped, and an eerie silence fell over the mine. Jack's heart sank, and he felt a cold dread creeping up his spine. Had he lost Max forever? He stood frozen, his ears straining to pick up any sound, his eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of his beloved dog. And then, just as he was about to give up hope, he heard a faint whimpering sound coming from deeper in the mine. Jack's heart skipped a beat, and he took a step forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "Max?" The whimpering grew louder, and Jack knew he was getting closer. But as he turned a corner, he was met with a sight that made his blood run cold. As Jack ventured deeper into the mine, the darkness seemed to swallow him whole, but he refused to let it consume him. His determination to find Max fueled his every step, his eyes straining to adjust to the faint light that filtered through the dusty air. The smell of rot and decay filled his nostrils, and the sound of dripping water echoed through the tunnels, making him feel like he was walking through a damp, eerie cave. He stumbled upon old mining equipment, the metal rusty and corroded, and broken rails that seemed to stretch on forever, a grim reminder of the mine's abandoned past. "Max?" Jack called out, his voice barely above a whisper, but it seemed to carry through the tunnels, bouncing off the walls. The barking sound grew louder, and Jack's heart skipped a beat as he quickened his pace, his senses on high alert. He could feel the sweat dripping down his face, his skin prickling with anxiety as he navigated through the narrow tunnels. The air was thick with dust, and Jack could taste the grittiness on his lips, but he didn't dare stop to wipe it away. As he turned a corner, the barking suddenly stopped, and Jack's heart sank. He stood still, his ears straining to pick up any sound, and then he heard it, a faint whimpering sound. Max was hurt. Jack's mind racing with ideas and plans to rescue his dog, he knew he had to act fast. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest, his breath coming in short gasps as he tried to think clearly. He remembered a trick he had learned from a TV show about using a makeshift rope to lift heavy objects, and his eyes scanned the surroundings, searching for anything that could help him. That's when he spotted it, a long piece of torn fabric caught in an old mining cart. Jack's heart leapt with hope as he rushed towards the cart, his fingers closing around the fabric. It was sturdy enough, he thought, and he quickly began to untangle it from the cart's rusty wheels. As he worked, the whimpering sound grew louder, and Jack's anxiety spiked. He had to move fast. He finally managed to free the fabric, and he began to tie one end around a nearby rock, testing its strength. The fabric held, and Jack felt a surge of relief. He knew he had to be careful, but he also knew he had to act quickly. Max's whimpering was growing weaker, and Jack's heart ached with every passing moment. He tied the other end of the fabric around his waist, testing the makeshift rope, and then he began to make his way towards the sound. The darkness seemed to press in around him, but Jack pushed on, his senses on high alert, his heart pounding in his chest. As he turned another corner, he saw Max, trapped beneath a pile of rubble, his paws waving feebly in the air. Jack's heart went out to his dog, and he knew he had to act fast. He took a deep breath, his mind racing with the plan, and then he began to pull on the makeshift rope, his muscles straining with the effort. The fabric creaked and groaned, but it held, and slowly the rubble began to shift. Jack's heart was in his throat as he pulled and pulled, his eyes fixed on Max's struggling form. And then, just as he thought he was making progress, the rope suddenly jerked, and Jack stumbled backwards, his heart sinking. Had he just made things worse? The darkness seemed to close in around him, and for a moment, Jack felt a wave of despair wash over him. But then he looked at Max, his eyes locked on his dog's struggling form, and he knew he couldn't give up. Not now. Not when he was so close. With a newfound determination, Jack began to pull on the rope once more, his muscles straining with the effort. The outcome was far from certain, but one thing was clear. Jack would stop at nothing to save his beloved dog. And as he pulled, the rubble began to shift, ever so slightly, and Jack's heart leapt with hope. But just as he thought he was making progress, he heard a faint rumbling sound, growing louder by the second. As Jack carefully made his way to the source of the whimpering sound, the darkness of the mine began to recede, and his eyes adjusted to the faint light that filtered through the rubble. He could see Max, his beloved dog, trapped beneath a pile of debris, his paws frantically trying to free himself. Jack's heart swelled with emotion as he saw his dog in distress, and he knew he had to act fast. The rubble could collapse at any moment, and he couldn't bear the thought of losing Max. With the makeshift rope in hand, Jack carefully tied it around a nearby beam, testing its strength before gently pulling Max to safety. The rope creaked under the weight, but it held firm, and Jack could feel a sense of relief wash over him as he saw Max's paws touch solid ground. The dog's whimpering grew louder, and Jack could see the fear in his eyes. But he also saw the trust, the knowledge that Jack was there to save him. As Jack pulled Max to safety, the rubble shifted, and the sound of falling rocks grew louder. Jack's heart was racing, but he didn't stop, didn't falter. He kept pulling, his muscles straining with the effort, until Max was finally free. The dog collapsed on the ground, panting, his tongue lolling out of his mouth. Jack dropped to his knees beside him, hugging him tightly, tears of joy streaming down his face. As they emerged from the mine, Jack and Max were greeted by the warm sunlight, a stark contrast to the darkness and danger they had just faced. Jack couldn't help but hug his dog tightly, feeling a sense of gratitude and love for his loyal companion. Max, sensing his owner's emotions, nuzzled his face against Jack's chest, his tail wagging weakly. Jack could feel the warmth of the sun on his skin, the cool breeze in his hair, and the sound of birds singing in the distance. It was a moment of pure joy, a moment that Jack would never forget. As they walked away from the mine, Jack realized that the experience had taught him the value of quick thinking and resourcefulness. He had used his wits to save Max, to come up with a plan and execute it. He felt a sense of pride and accomplishment, knowing that he had faced his fears and overcome them. The mine, once a place of danger and uncertainty, was now a symbol of their bond, a reminder of the unforgettable afternoon they had shared. As they walked, the silence between them was comfortable, a sense of understanding and companionship that only came from sharing a life-or-death experience. Jack glanced down at Max, who was now walking beside him, his tail wagging more strongly with each step. Jack smiled, feeling a sense of closure and satisfaction. They had been through a trial by fire, and they had emerged stronger, their bond more unbreakable than ever. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the landscape. Jack and Max walked in silence, taking in the beauty of the world around them. They had faced death and come out on top, and now they could appreciate the simple things in life. As they crested a small hill, Jack could see the outline of their town in the distance, a reminder of the safety and security that awaited them. He glanced down at Max, who was looking up at him with adoring eyes. Jack smiled, feeling a sense of gratitude and love for his loyal companion. He knew that their bond would last a lifetime, a bond forged in the depths of the mine, where they had faced danger and come out on top. And as they walked off into the sunset, Jack knew that they would always be ready for their next adventure together, side by side, a team.